So just a little bit of overview of what the Watershed Restoration Initiative is. It started in 2006, and so we're at 20 years, which is crazy. Um, I've been involved in this for about 13 years, and so it's been really fun to see how it's progressed and all the things we've accomplished. So yeah, since the beginning, we've done almost 3,000 projects that have been completed since 2006. And 2,792 miles of streams have been restored, and 2.9 million acres have been restored. So it's been pretty incredible what we've been able to do, and a lot of times you probably are looking at a project and you don't even know it, which is kind of is at least my goal a lot of the times is to try to make it so. With this, it's active management that we do. But we try to make it so it looks as natural as possible. Um, so we've had a lot of success. Last year we did 120, or in 2025 we did 120 projects, and we're averaging around 150,000 acres per year treated. So what has made this so successful, I think, is it's a bottom-up approach. So we have regional teams. We have 5 regions throughout the state, and these teams consist of constituents from federal and state agencies, conservation groups, counties, cities, anyone who really has an interest in watershed health. We encourage to participate, and the projects are ranked by these regional committees, which is really cool. You don't see that a lot with funding and grant opportunities. It seems like it's just few people making decisions, whereas the WRI program really involves the specialists on the ground to rank those projects and then send those rankings up to the directors of the program, and they make final decisions. But they really do their best to stick to what the regional committees score and suggest, which is cool. And another big part is just to help bring partners across all different land ownerships. So we're able to treat the entire landscape and not just have little pockets of projects on certain properties. So that it makes it so it looks better on the landscape, as well as we're able to address the issues at a watershed scale. Our state contracting program is another big win with the program. It runs through the Division of Wildlife Resources, so myself and others do a lot of the contracting, and we have a really robust state purchasing system that makes it fair and transparent for contractors and for the spending of public dollars, as well as we are able to get good. We have developed good relationships with contractors and have good contractor lists that we review every year to make sure we have the best contractors working on projects. And so that 20 years of experience is, at the biologist level, the practitioners, the contractors. So we really have built a robust team here in Utah to do restoration work at a large landscape scale level. And many other states are very envious of what we have here in Utah, and so it's a great program. And I just am always trying to sell it and just speak to how awesome it is. And I hope that more people will partner and bring funding through this system, because there's always funding going all over the place, and we really have a good system for vetting projects through this WRI program. So I hope, and it's set up to be able to accept funding from lots of different places. Um, and yeah, like I said, it's skilled practitioners led by biologists, administered through the DWR. Lots of experience on how to deal with moving money and bringing funds together, doing cooperative agreements, um, and we bring in lots of partner funding. So I just wanted to kind of talk quickly, big picture of kind of some of the things that we do. One of the big projects that really started this was the expansion of pinyon and juniper in our uplands. And you can see here's a project on the right in 2004 where the pinyon and juniper, what it does is that we've suppressed fires for so long, it's an unnatural amount of old growth woody vegetation on our landscapes, and it outcompetes understory vegetation, which is problematic for lots of wildlife species and reduces the amount of water that gets into the systems taken up by the trees. And so that picture in 2004 is before we did the project. We went in and thinned it, and you can see already the understory and grasses are coming back. And then in 2010, you can see more of that later several stage plant communities are coming in. And by 2020, we have kind of an ideal mosaic of vegetation types across the landscape. And so, as part of the WRI program, we also have long-term monitoring that's done through DWR on a lot of these projects, which is also helpful in making sure we're doing the right stuff and being successful. Can you hear me okay, Laura?
Yes, I'm taking notes too.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure.
Right. These are great examples.
Yeah. Here's another project that is maybe even more relevant to the Jordan River watershed is we're starting to do a lot more higher elevation work. One example is thinning conifers, and we will do that with machines or by hand crews with chainsaws. And it's the same situation with conifer and aspen as the juniper and sagebrush ecosystems. Because we've put fires out for so long, we have taken away that part of the ecosystem, that tool that nature uses to kind of recycle the ecosystem, vegetation, plant communities. And so conifer does well when there's no fire, and it outcompetes plants like aspen and other understory vegetation without the presence of fire. And so in some areas where we can't do prescribed burning, we'll go in and mechanically thin and kind of mimic what would happen with a fire. But what's nice with that is we're also able to keep the older growth aspen and other vegetation on the landscape. And when we remove that conifer, it allows the aspen to regenerate, which aspen do desire fire and do well with fire. Here's just an example of some hand piling. So we'll go in with hand crews. You may have seen this up Mill Creek Canyon. We've done 1,000 acres up there recently, up Harley's Canyon and Lamb's Canyon, as well as we'll be starting in Big Cottonwood Canyon this year. And so we hand thin, pile the piles, and then burn those piles in the winter. Here's an example. We also can use prescribed burn, and we do hope to start using that along the Wasatch Front eventually. And you can see in that picture on the right all the aspen shoots that come up after a fire. And here's another example of that. The picture on the left is before. You can see the thick conifer, and the conifer will eventually choke out and outcompete the aspen and kill it out. And then we did the prescribed burn, and you can see on the right photo all of the aspen shoots that are popping up. And so that helps to have healthy plant communities, but also the wildlife benefit because they're able to eat the aspen and the other understory vegetation. When you get the really thick conifer that where you lose the understory, you take that food source off of the landscape. So it's really important from a wildlife standpoint to either have wildfire on the landscape or prescribed fire or mechanical treatments. So these are just some examples of some of the things the watershed program does. Another big thing is invasive weed removal. This diagram, this is from a study that shows that as annual like cheatgrass cover exceeds 20%, you drastically lose wildlife habitat, particularly for mule deer. And so these invasive weeds can really have a drastic impact on our watershed health. And um, along the Wasatch Front, we've done a lot of work removing myrtle spurge, and I'm hoping to do more of this cheatgrass and cereal rye removal along the foothills. One thing we can use to remove this is an herbicide called Plateau. It's a pre-emergent, and here's an example of that. Sprayed on the left side, you can see all of the cheatgrass, and the understory on the right is after. And that allows for those sagebrush to disperse seed and get seedlings growing without the competition of the cheatgrass, so that you don't just have an old growth stand that eventually will die off from disease and age. So it's important to have that diversity of age classes and vegetation types on the landscape. We've also started doing a lot of planting in areas, especially in areas that were seeded with aggressive non-native plants like crested wheatgrass. It prevents, it stabilizes the soil, but it prevents native vegetation from coming back without intervention. And so that's one thing that I think we always get asked is, will nature just take care of itself? And it really can't at this point. Um, particularly because of the impacts that humans have had on the landscape and some of the things we've introduced. In order to get things back to a healthier state, we really have to have active management. We do a lot of seeding projects. We have a Great Basin Research Center in Ephraim, and that's that picture down there on the bottom corner there. It's our warehouse. We have thousands and thousands of pounds of native seed that's on ready to go when we need it, and we can have develop particular seed mixes. So it's really an amazing program, a big cornerstone of what makes WRI successful. And that's really important for catastrophic fire rehabilitation. Like this year is a big fire year, as we all know. That's a big part of my job is fire rehabilitation work. I'll be working on the Iron Fire and Cherry Fire by Eureka, as well as some other fires in the West Desert. And we'll be flying seed on those fires to help prevent non-natives from establishing post-fire. Another big thing we do is drought mitigation and riparian work, and this is probably maybe one of the more interesting parts to the Jordan River Commission. And uh, we've done some work up in Mill Creek Canyon with BDAs, they're basically man-made beaver dams, trying to mimic beavers. Um, we're starting to do some of that work in Big Cottonwood Canyon as well, and also getting reintroducing beavers to these areas once we putting the BDAs, the artificial beaver dams, is helpful to get those processes started and a foothold for when we can put beavers back on the landscape for them to be able to establish more easily. And we do a lot of plantings along with that. And we have a team of that excavator in that picture there is one of our heavy equipment crews, a team that specializes in stream restoration so work, and that's a resource that this group can tap into through WRI. So a little bit of a legislative update for this year. So we have a 5.9 million appropriation that we seek every year from the legislature. And that's kind of our base funding. And then we're able to match that with federal dollars and all the different partners. And we have a total of 36 million for projects this year. The DWR contributed 3.4 million this year from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses. And then our expo tag has really been a huge success here in Utah. Basically, it's through the Sportsman Expo. People go and buy $5 lottery tickets, basically, to be put into a drawing to draw tags. And that generated $6.5 million this year, with also the sportsman groups contributing towards that amount to go towards projects. So I just want to highlight what hunters and fishermen are doing here in Utah towards conservation, and they're really putting their money where their mouth is and doing a lot of good work that has lots of different benefits from risk reduction to water quality improvements, not just for wildlife. And we always get a lot of money from the BLM and U.S. Forest Service and other partners that help to make up that 36 million this year. And then something that Tyler asked me to highlight was this new partnership that we have this year. The state legislature gave 2.5 million to the Utah Forest Restoration Institute at Utah State University this year. And so that money is to go towards research to better understand how these projects are being successful and what we can do to make them better, and also money that they can put towards specific projects that help improve forest health. And they gave 1.75 million this year to projects. So for our region, we did pretty well as far as what projects were funded. This is a list of projects that were funded this year. Utah Lake project that was mentioned. Our highest ranked project this year. We have work Soldier Creek there is in Spanish Fork Canyon. The Wasatch Front Watershed Restoration, that is City Creek, um, Immigration, Parley's Canyon, Mill Creek, and Big Cottonwood Canyon project. So that's a large project. I believe it was over $1 million ask, and that was fully funded. There's lots of other projects on there that will impact directly within the Jordan River watershed as well as the expanded watershed upstream of Utah Lake. For example, our Strawberry Ridge Aspen Regeneration Project up by Strawberry. And we have some work up Spanish Fork Canyon that we're doing. So, and we're these projects, one thing that's good about them is we've tried to not just do one treatment type, but have a watershed scale holistic approach. So these projects represent stream work as well as upland work, weed reduction, all those things that I mentioned earlier. And with that, thank you.